Hi there, I'm AJ Sakura and welcome to this LP of Advance Wars 2 for the 2007 thread. I'm doing this completely live with a nice fresh save. So we're going to try and go through the campaign, which may be a little difficult as I've never actually completed the campaign mode of an Advance Wars game before. But let's go. This directly follows on from the story of the first Advance Wars game, where various things happened. Basically, the evil black hole forces are invading a new country. Whereas in the first game, we were fighting various other nations. In this game, the forces of the world have basically banded together to fight as one against the Black Hole army, which is nice because Black Hole are kind of cool, kind of fun. And we get to see a bunch more of their COs. So this is basically summing up the events of the first game. So now we meet our Orange Star COs. Andy, Sammy and Max. I'll explain the various points we're using, but they're a pretty cool crew. Yeah. Andy is not any smarter in the second game. We went from what's an airport to what's a continent, basically. Though Max isn't exactly one to throw stones. Yay, we're going to war! So yeah, Orange Star, Blue Moon, Yellow Comet and Green Earth. These are basically this is basically our campaign map. And Orange Star's missions are basically the tutorial. Every single one of these sections on the map represents a mission. And Black Hole's up here as well. They're a little bit of territory. But let's get into the first mission. First enemy is Flak, he's basically the dunce of Black Hole's operations. So that's Nell, the Orange Star commander or advisor. I'm not entirely sure what her role is. But she's basically the one who's going to be giving out the tutorials for this section of the game, which I'm mostly going to be skipping because because I know what everything that needs to be said about all the units in this game. So our units are the orange ones. Our units are the orange ones. Black holes are the black ones, unsurprisingly. And basic terms of victory in Advance Wars are defeat all the enemy units for a rout, or capture the HQ. So this is an infantry unit. They can move they have 3 movement points. They can move through basically all kinds of terrain unhindered. They're not that strong, but they have other uses. And the APC can move infantry units around a lot faster, though we're not really going to be making use of it in this mission. Two kinds of units in Advance Wars, direct and indirect. Direct units need to be next to an enemy to fire, and indirect units can't move and fire in the same turn. I'll explain them better when we actually get one. But you can hold down B over an enemy to check their attack range, and all our infantry are going to be outside it. Forwards. And we can move our APC to block them off a little more. Now, to the Advance Wars AI, an APC is the most dangerous unit in the history of warfare. They will go after it no matter what else is around. And it does make for some hilarious strategic blunders. So now we can start attacking. Andy, as a CO, has no real strengths and weaknesses. He does average damage, he has average defense. None of his units get movement boosts or attack boosts, though he has other useful abilities. That we'll find out when we get to them. Infantry, I think, are the only kind of units that aren't susceptible to the charms of the APC. And just like that, we've got a unit within capturing range of the HQ. Though we're not going to be capturing it since this unit is basically nearly down. But it's a good example of how Flax AI isn't exactly smart, although he is going for an HQ capture himself. Though he's not going to get it. Mission complete.
Mission complete.
So at the end of each mission you scored speed based on how quickly you did the mission, power based on how much damage you did, usually based on how much damage you did in a single turn, and technique is how many units you lost. There are ways of abusing the technique score that will probably come into play later, but 100 points is the max for each. You get, I think it's, the cutoff is 280 or 290 for an S rank. And those points go into our pot. And we'll use those to buy versus maps and other COs and various other things. And so we move straight on to the second mission.
Move out.
Flak's not wrong about tanks. Tanks are very nice, they move very far, they are very powerful. Flak explaining capturing. That's Nelly explaining our little info window down there. It shows the capture number of any given property and also its defense rating, which dictates how much damage we'll take. So attacking from a city means you take less damage from an enemy attack. Mech unit, I don't need that yet. The important thing, Sammy has a few useful buffs based on her infantry. Her infantry can capture 1.5 times their HP number. Usually a full strength infantry will capture a base 10 points at a time, so any amount of damage it takes will extend the capture time to 3 turns. Whereas Sammy's infantry can take a little bit of a hit and still complete a capture in 2 turns. That's our infantry, we don't need that yet. And Sammy's infantry and mech units are also much more powerful. If mech units get the first attack on tanks, they will absolutely destroy them. The downside is that Sammy's vehicles are slightly less powerful than every other commander. That's an artillery unit, it's our first indirect combat unit. It'll be seeing some use in this mission. Yeah. So the next thing is explaining healing units, which is simple enough. Let's move on to unoccupied. Let's move on to a friendly city or any friendly building really, and they'll recover 2 hit points at the start of every turn. This does cost money though, which isn't an issue now, but it will become one later when we start to need to build units of our own. So now we can demonstrate the artillery. It can't move and fire in the same turn, but the advantage to that is it cannot receive counter-attacking fire. Easy enough. Don't need that. HQ. And carry. That was probably a slight mistake there. I probably should have left the tank on. I probably should have left the tank on this city here and waited for them to come to me. I wouldn't have got the kill on that 4 HP tank, but that tank would have also have become 7 HP at the start of this turn. So, a minor issue right now, but if it was in a later mission, that could have been a pretty bad mistake. So I loaded the infantry into an the mech, sorry, into an APC in the hopes that I might be able to get it to the HQ for a capture if I can't be bothered picking up that APC. APCs and other transport units they're basically there in some missions with the AI to just stretch out the mission. They're there to mess up your speed score, basically. As you can see, it's just running. So we're probably going to get the HQ capture here. Because this tank, with the movement penalty it gets from moving through woods, every kind of unit has its own movement type, and each movement type will incur different penalties moving through certain terrain. So while infantry and mechs can move through woods with just one movement point, tanks need to expend 2 to get through the woods. So our tank has 6 points. We use 1 to get over that. We use 2 to get through these woods, 2 to get through these, 1 to get there, and then 1 to get there. If those woods hadn't been there, we could have fired on that APC right now. Wheels are even worse, but thankfully very few major units use wheels. And just finish this off.
Mission complete.
So that was our introduction to Sammy. I wouldn't say she's my favourite CO in the game, but she's definitely one of my favourites. Her infantry bonuses, when you know how to use them, can really be useful. Although on a more combat focused map, her penalties to vehicles can make her a bit of a liability. But now for someone who's very much not a liability with vehicles. I love black. This battle is amazing because it's basically just going to be meathead versus meathead. So welcome to Max. Welcome to Max and welcome to air units. Battlecopters. A transport copter is basically an aerial APC, which is going to become useful later on. Battlecopters are the scourge of the air. Kind of. They're good against other copters, and they're one of only 2 air units that can attack ground units, which makes them very, very useful if you can gain air superiority, which I've just done. Literally nothing on the ground can harm these battlecopters now. Tanks can fire on them, but they're not really going to do much damage. They're going to do 1, maybe 2 damage at most. And we have our MD tanks. These are brutal, basically. And in the hands of Max, they're even worse. Max gets a bonus to direct combat damage with any kind of unit except Max gets a bonus to damage with direct combat units except infantry and mechs. But the trade-off is his range with indirect combat units is reduced by 1, and I think he gets a penalty to damage as well. So, Nell's explaining joining. You can join 2 damaged units or a health unit and a damaged unit to create a full strength unit, but considering that this battlecopter is only damaged by 1 health, I don't really think it's going to be any kind of issue. But if you've got like a 6 and a 4, or even if you've got a few damaged units, joining them is very much worthwhile. Mostly because it's mostly useful because a joined unit doesn't count as defeated. So units that are joined will remain at full health, but they won't be considered as destroyed for the purposes of your technique score. So even though Max's artillery are slightly weaker and have a shorter range, they're still essential for battlefield strategy, basically. They're not something you can ignore. Can't quite move that much yet. But we can start blowing up this empty tank. And there you see Max's power. The usual way it works when 2 identical units go head to head is one will take 5 damage, the other will take 2. Now smart CO, a smart CO would have taken that 3 HP one back and brought in the full health one to hit the damaged. But as I think we've already established, Flak is not a smart CO, so and there you see the impunity with which battlecopters can attack ground units. Absolutely no damage. And that's going to get artillery to death in its turn. And it is finally safe to dump our infantry there. And that tank isn't going to be able to do a damn thing about it because our battlecopters will be there. And, as has been stated, the transport copter works in a similar manner to APCs as far as the AI is concerned. It is the most dangerous unit on the map. Not that it matters, really. Just got battlecopter to death. That, and we'll artillery this MD tank defension. Winning a max mission with an indirect hit. Something of an insult. Now Nell is explaining our points, which I've already kind of explained. These are all just tutorial missions, so S ranks aren't too difficult to come from. It's basically just to kickstart your point open. And now the map opens up a bit. We have 3 level 2 missions. One with Andy, one with Max, and one with Sammy. This is how most of the campaign will work. You'll generally have a choice of missions to do, although I think we need to do all of them. But we'll deal with that next time.